Great. Well, today we are going to be talking about a very important topic. It's top of mind for us because it's something that's come up on basically every customer marketing conversation we've had, and that's the idea of customer centricity and what does that really mean and why is it so important for marketers in general. Over and over again, when we ask marketers what, especially customer marketers or those working with CRM, what their top goal is, what they're looking to achieve, customer centricity, customer first marketing, putting their customers first at the forefront of their strategy are all things that continue to come up over and over again. And I think, lots of research that we've even done internally has shown that customer focused marketing is just something that is top of mind. And I think it is intuitive. Obviously, customer marketers are going to be focused on their customers, but I think the way that they've perceived that they need to approach it has potentially evolved and changed, especially as marketing has gone more digital and in-store continues to garner a little bit less market share in terms of revenue generated year in and year out. So I think overall it's a really interesting topic and something that there's a lot to talk about. And I think a good way potentially to kick off the conversation is to ask the question, Ben, from your perspective, how do you define customer centricity? What does that really mean?
Yeah, I'm so really aligned on the fact that that's the main topic that's centered on every discussion. All conversations are about being customer centric, and that's for recent years and for a long time now. But that's really an area that every marketer is making progress on, for sure. But sometimes there is mistakes or shortcuts made in the sake of being customer centric that leads to action that are not really customer centric or with a bias from the marketer's point of view. And so maybe back to your question on for me at least, what is being customer centric? Customer centric is really being careful and looking for the benefit we provide to the customer, what the benefit the customer is expecting, what is the customer experience for the customer with your brand or with a product, with an experience. I don't know, if I go to the museum, there is a whole experience to live there, and being customer centric is getting feedback from the customer. That's the same in business when we sell product or offers. That can be in any department in the industry, vertical. You are in a business, you want to be customer centric to provide the best experience to your customer, the best benefit, outcome for them at the day, at this moment, in order for them to come back later. Because the ultimate goal to provide a good customer experience, to be customer centric, is that the customer is talking about your brand to friends, so word of mouth. They are coming back in a few months to buy something else next week or next day. I don't know, depending on your business. But that's the long-term value, the lifetime value of the customer with your brand. That's why it's such important. If you don't care about your customer coming back tomorrow or next week, why would you care about that? If you don't care about your customer talking to their neighborhood or their friends about the good experience they had with your rep or your website, why do you care and serve them? So being customer-centric is really about being sure that making the experience of the customer good, and not just good enough, but really good at a point that the customer will be satisfied, will get benefit from this experience with your brand, your store, and will come back and drive more revenue or more business from himself or expand it with other people.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so simple when you say it, but it's really, what you're saying is it's all about sort of perceived and realized value. Like a customer is expecting a certain level of value from your business, like through a product or service, and then it's all based on realized value. So customer centricity in that way is really delivering on that, providing a value for customer. And that's like business 101. But I think, we live in a world where the idea of customer centricity has become somewhat convoluted by all of these, potential ways that you need to be able to do that. And we talked a little bit about it last week with some of the pitfalls potentially of personalization. And I think one thing that, you've mentioned quite frequently is sort of this potential pitfall, actually, that customer centricity, or a lot of marketers approach that by starting by focusing only on their customer and what they can understand. Maybe talk a little bit about why potentially that is a pitfall and may not align as much with their customer centricity goals as they think that it should.
Yeah. So theoretically, the being customer centric is starting with the customer, and that's normal. And in a lot of cases, that's the way to go, because to be customer centric, you need to bring the customer voice of the customer in your decision, in your data, in everything you do for your customer. That's better to get feedback on the action, feedback from your customer on this action, so you can improve and being sure that the benefit is really pursued by the customer in a nice way. But one thing in this context is that you have you are working, you have a business, you are promoting a certain amount of product or offers in your catalog, and you want to be customer centric. Listen to your customer in the context of your catalog. And the issue here is that as a marketer, we tend, and a lot of marketers tend to avoid some option for the customer. And one of these options is to say, I'm not interested by this product right now. So the option can be not the right time or not at all in the catalog, even if it's later. And we can go through some examples. But the one I have in mind, coming top of my head right now, is that I will try to describe an experience in a store that will talk to a lot of people. Let's say you go into a big electronics store, Best Buy. You walk into Best Buy, you walk in the main aisle, and you are in a hunt of a new headset. Great. But on the path to the headset aisle, you have this big area with all the TVs, and you have a rep on the side of the area of the TV. When you walk in front of him, saying that, hey, have you seen this discounted sale on this TV? Would you be interested? No, I'm here to buy a headset. And when you arrive in front of your headset, you have this rep coming to you again, saying that, are you sure you don't want a TV? No, this person is not letting you the choice of, no, that's not the right moment. Maybe you will have the necessity to buy a TV later, but that's not the right moment. And I hope that illustrates the personalization topic we are mentioning last week. But the fact that when we do personalization, when marketers use platform for personalization, this personalization of offers is based on their catalog, and unfortunately, a part of their customer, of their database, don't want to receive anything. But you are pushing them something in the sake of being customer-centric and personalize the experience that is the best offer from a list that is not relevant. So that's the best of the worst, or I don't know, how do you name that? Yeah. But that's really, no, the best action is to not send something right now because there is no interest. And when marketers are saying that they are customer-centric and they do some shortcuts due to the fact that they have constraints from the business that exist, and the trigger, what triggered this action is really the constraint and their goal to achieve in terms of business. But that's an issue of the short-term goals versus the long-term goals. So you are influencing and trying to push too much for the short-term goals, damaging the future. And I have another example of a different kind of shortcut that's not a good idea. We think that's a good idea for being customer-centric, but I think that's not. Let's say you want to bring the voice of the customer in the choice of how many communication you send to them. Best reflects saying that, okay, I will be customer-centric and open a preference page, and they will be able to choose, my customer will be able to choose if they want to receive one communication per week, one every other week, 2 per month, whatever the option you will give them. And that's okay. I'm marketers. I've done that. I'm super customer-centric. I'm listening to my customer, and I bring the voice of the customer in the choice for the communication. Wrong answer on that. That's not possible. That's not being customer-centric. That's giving them choice in the context of you are sending them wrong communication, not the good communication, because you are not respecting them on the communication side, and you keep sending them wrong messages. So you give them the choice to leave this program or to receive less of this program. The real problem is address the initial problem by sending the right communication, and then why would you ask them if they want to receive only one message per month or 2 per month or 1 per week? Because they will not have to choose the frequency or the number of message, but they will know that as a brand, you will contact them and make proposals that are only relevant to them.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like, to your point, the pushy salesman, which I think everybody's experienced at one time or another, is just being replicated in the digital world. And I think that's, something that we had talked about discussing was sort of how has digital evolution sort of changed customer centricity and what that means. And I think what you've just illustrated is that in a way, a lot of the same old principles that applied to brick and mortar in-store shopping hold true now. And that's that a good salesperson in a store isn't going to harass somebody over and over again, no matter how personalized they could be, with things that aren't relevant to them, because it all kind of loops back to the idea that realized value, me paying for something that I want and then getting benefit or delight out of it, is ultimately what a consumer wants. It's why we buy things. It either makes our lives better or helps us achieve a task or brings us joy. And I know that that's maybe somewhat philosophical, but it is the reality of why people buy. And I think, to your perspective, like you can have emails that are designed specifically for people, or that use like very customer-centric language, or that I think a really good point you made as well is that might include things in them that they might still not want, but are the best possible option, just because you feel like you need to be continuing that communication. And then that's just going to lead towards value erosion through unsubscribes, brand equity. And if you lose a customer now because you feel like, to your point, like I can't hold off on communicating. I have to keep them in the cadence, whether it's email or SMS or digital or social or whatever your channel is. You're basically just saying, like, I'm going to continue to communicate to them until they either opt to not engage with my brand anymore, or finally I find the thing that they want to buy. Whereas, kind of looping back around, what is the goal of customer marketing, or customer centricity, what are they looking to achieve? And if it is business goals, like that's really where you have to start. And you can create, I think, if you think about it, like a sort of a natural evolution to your strategy. If you sort of start with, like, let's say, take a product example. I have, a shoe that I need to push out this week, and not everybody in my database is going to want that particular product, but there are going to be a significant number of people who will be delighted or find use in that and want to hear about it. And so by sort of employing what you know about your customers, understanding what they want, and then executing that strategy, to get them products that they want and then a clear path to buy that through your communication, you're putting your customers first and you're able to deliver for your business in a way that allows you to keep a healthy database over time. I mean, it relates again back to some of the things that we were discussing with unsubscribes, but I think that's an interesting concept where, I think in digital we've sort of think we need to create this brand new sort of journey or these experiences that are really not grounded in terms of the reality of what people want, how they want to be communicated to, how they want to be talked to, and like how they want to engage with the brands that they love. And I think, that's an interesting point that I think maybe customer centricity and the ultimate goal of that has caused marketers to go a little bit too far, where a little bit of patience, because to your point too, like somebody may not want to buy a TV now, but they may come back in the store 6 months from now and buy that TV. Or they may tell a friend that store has a great selection of excellent TVs. They're looking for a TV. They should go there as well. And they're not going to do that if they have that bad in-store experience. And the same thing with digital.
Yeah. And to your point, an example that's make me think about in digital, marketers are in front of a different problem than in store. If you have a sales rep in a store, he's talking to one customer, one at a time. I don't know a lot of stores where there is one rep grouping 10 people and presenting a product, expecting all these 10 people to buy it and saying that, oh, no, you want something else, but no, the product you want to buy, that's really this one because you are in this group and you build a cohort and the segments, like when you enter the Best Buy and the security guard is, wait, as soon as we have 10 people, you all go at the same time in the TV area and you will get information about one TV. No, that's not what happened in real store, but that's what's happened in digital. Most of the time, that's marketers are making segments, a big group, and a big chunk of the database. We are not talking about 10 people. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of people grouped together, say, oh, they will receive the same offer. Even though you are able to personalize a little bit the content with different offers, back to my initial point on the fact that some of them, they are receiving something with the best of a selection that's make no sense for them. So instead of not sending them a message right now, you are still pushing something to them. And this parallel makes just the digital marketers, that's a big challenge for the marketing. And again, personalization engine tools sounds really good way to address that. But unfortunately, we need to face the fact that in digital, we won't be able to have a one-on-one conversation like it can be in a store. We can be close to this kind of experience if we respect the customer and we accept that sometimes someone say that, no, I don't want help. I don't need help. I don't want to listen to you right now. I will come back and ask you something later on. And or receiving and reacting to a communication next week. And I will come back on your website and buy at this time this product. But right now, that was not the right time. And the main complexity for the marketers is really to match the facts and the need, the willingness to be customer-centric and all these business goals for the business goals of promoting this product, of promoting this category of offers right now. And for the sake of the business and the customer, the long-term point of view or goal is often hidden because that's not the revenue of the day or the week.
Yeah, and I think like to your point, digital marketers are a challenge in the sense that if back to the brick and mortar example, like if somebody's looking for something in your store and they don't know where to find it, or they're looking at one particular product but might be interested in some other things as well, you can ask them and have that conversation, and it's very easy to figure out like how to help them or direct them in to the right place. or say, no, we're not going to have that in stock today, but if you come back in a week, we will. I think, there are ways to do that digitally, but that becomes a lot more difficult because you don't have that opportunity to hear directly in that explicit way from customers. I mean, there are ways that you can, but it's not necessarily scalable. So I think obviously we can't talk about digital without talking a little bit about data, but that's, I think, where marketers need to start thinking about smart use of data. And I think, again, I know we've talked a bit about explicit signals and things like that, but that doesn't always paint the full picture. And basically what that also enables you to do is to, again, just sort of identify the best possible pathway for a customer, even though that's not necessarily optimal. And I think being able to use data in an intelligent way to understand, and there's a lot that it can tell you around all of the things that you said around, this is what I actually want. I might want to buy a TV, but I also might want a headset, and I might want potentially to look for a new cell phone case as well. And, data can tell you that if you know how to read it, or you have the capabilities to be able to read it, I guess. And so I think also just sort of shifting the way you think about, instead of using data to say, hey, I need to create a full journey or experience, it maybe is better to actually refocus it a little bit on demand. And then it kind of goes back to your point around, ultimately getting value in the hands of customers, which is ultimately the goal of any customer marketer.
Yeah, and fortunately, nowadays technology works, and that the technology exists to detect intent even without explicit signal. That exists. The goal is not to promote what we do, but for sure that's what we discuss with our clients, and that's what our platform is able to do. But I've an example in mind, or something to illustrate that from the data and the first-party data. I mean, every business right now today is just collecting a ton of data. Even first-party data, we are that's a topic that is really in the news everywhere, and everyone is talking about. But I'm talking about first-party data. So the data points that your customer are generating with your brand, not what they are doing with other brands, not what they are doing on their weather app. Doesn't matter. That's the data and the data points and the behavior with your brand. This amount of data are huge. I know some of you listening to the podcast are not yet fully organized to collect everything, or not fully organized to use all this data collected. That's fine. I mean, need to start from somewhere and start with something. But all these data used with recent technology and new technology, the data is able to provide guidance, KPIs, information that will help inform the marketing plan. Like, oh, this is a topic that you never talk about, but actually 3, 4, 5% of your database will have a really high chance to buy that in the next days. And without engine technology, you can't detect that as marketers. Your gut feel is always good as a marketer because you know your product, you have these interviews of your customer, you talk to them, maybe you get feedback from surveys, and you have all this knowledge, but you can go over that. You can expand that. Supercharged by technology. And that's our technology or other technologies. They are different approach. I just want the audience to avoid to get into the trap of the very shiny technology or approach saying that it will be customer-centric and that will be full automation, while it's not customer-centric. If you are looking for full automation, that's to solve your problem as a marketer. So you are selfish on your problem, not on what the customer wants. So just avoid to hide your challenge or what you are facing as a marketer. That's everyone is facing the same kind of problem and try to achieve and find solution for in their context to solve the customer centricity approach with their customer, but don't do these shortcuts we mentioned earlier. That don't take decision in the sake of customer centricity that actually just hiding what you want to do as a business and especially push. Just assume it and do the best you can to provide a good experience and being customer centric with your offers, with your customer. And that's maybe mean that sometimes you don't need to contact them. That's not the right timing. Just let's accept that, and you will get a huge benefit in the long term.
Yeah, and I think kind of come full circle, to the point you were talking about earlier around the gap between customer centricity and ultimately business goals. To your point, that automated approach or sort of pushing specific things to customers based on what you think like that personalized journey should be doesn't necessarily align, because you have a full product catalog, again, things that you need to promote and to your point, topics and things that you need to push out that might not necessarily be identified based on what your customers are explicitly telling you they want. So when you mentioned at the beginning that there's almost a mistake of specifically starting with your customers to be able to achieve this, you almost have to start with your business goals, find the best, the best intent, the best customer-centric model based on what would bring value to just different segments of your customer database. And even if it's 5% want these red high tops, that's great. Then, you can promote those red high tops to that 5% that will find value and be delighted by that product, and then be able to achieve on the revenue goals for that particular product. So it's basically thinking about it as not two separate things, but developing a customer-centric strategy by understanding what brings different segments of customers value based on the catalog of products and the business goals that you have, and delivering that customer-centric strategy to achieve those goals. And that's essentially, I think, how you can bridge that gap and realize a lot of success as a customer marketer. But it's just maybe a little bit of a different way of thinking about accomplishing that.
Yeah, that's. I know that we can talk about that for hours. Maybe that's time to wrap up this episode, and we'll have a follow-up. But if I want to sum up what we said, is that we are not saying that you can't be customer-centric. What we are saying that to be customer-centric, really provide the best experience, you have constraints. You have your business, you have your catalog, you have business goals. So examine that goals, the goals you have, the product you have, and work from that to provide the best experience to your customer. And if you provide a good experience, and only to the customer with intent or interest for these offers, then you are customer-centric, because you respect the customer who wants the product, but the more important part, you respect the one that are not interested by that offer you have right now. And I think that's really something to think about in every action as marketers. We need to think about that for every action we are putting in place, a new action, new communication. That's really important to have.
Absolutely. Excellent point to end on.